It was a disheartening evening here at Northwest Stadium in Washington as the Washington Commanders fell to the Seattle Seahawks 38-14. Naturally, the story that's going to come out of this game is the apparent elbow injury to quarterback Jayden Daniels and what is this going to do for the Washington Commanders' future, and especially their immediate future. However, before we talk about that, we have to talk about the game itself and the fact that the Seattle Seahawks just went up and down the field. On the offensive side of the ball, Sam Darnold had a career day today, threw for over 300 yards, was nearly perfect in his passing rating. And it just looked like one of those disheartening efforts for the Washington Commanders defense. On every aspect of this game, it was the Seahawks doing whatever they wanted to do. There was little resistance. And we talked to Dan Quinn afterwards. We asked him as far as the coaching and as far as just getting his players prepped and ready and being prepared for this football game.
There's times you sit up here and after a bad loss and say what just happened, and I don't have to ask that question. I know exactly what happened. And started right from the very beginning. First offensive series penalty, knocked us back out. First defensive series penalty, that's how we started. And we killed our momentum before we could even get momentum. And give Seattle credit, thought for a great night, but for us to have issues that allowed them to have that night are stunning. We couldn't stop them, and we completely stopped ourselves. And so I'm furious, obviously, and into that emotion, but it's also hard to have that. You see the entire team, on a knee, circling up on Jayden, and he's on the ground after his injury. So the update on him is he does have a left elbow injury. I'll update you more once I know more. That's what I know tonight. But what I can say is I can speak for coach and player, and just unacceptable performance by us tonight. And told the team, we the one who dug the hole, we the ones that dig it out. The solutions are from within, so we missed it by a mile. We missed it out by a mile. Great environment, fans, great setup, like all the way through, and man, we completely missed that chance and that opportunity tonight. So that's things, and we'll get all of it, found out and look through. I'll give you updates on injuries once I know them tomorrow. So let's start, John.
In fact, the Seahawks offense had 7 scoring drives in this football game. And again, little resistance, missed tackles, open receivers. And this is something that's been going on all year for the Commanders. This has been their theme as far as a lack of defensive aggression. And then on the other side of the ball, Cliff Kingsbury and his offense. Today, the offense was Jayden Daniels. All you saw all night long was Jayden Daniels running for his life, and that pretty much was it. When Washington scored on their first scoring drive, it was Jayden Daniels making plays with his legs, and it was one of those games where you wondered, hey, this guy's coming back from 2 leg injuries. When would they take him out, considering the way the game was going? And then later in the fourth quarter, as we know, Jayden Daniels scrambles, and it looks like a very serious elbow injury. I'm pretty certain it's an injury that's going to keep him out for the remainder of this season. And it's a sad situation because, again, why is your franchise player in the game this late in a contest that was over with by halftime? In fact, most of the fans here at the stadium were already exiting at halftime and well into the third quarter. So Washington's got a lot of soul searching to do here. They've got a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer. Coach Dan Quinn said, again, that they still have an opportunity to come out and right things, and he said they will do that. But we've heard that quite a bit over the past few weeks. There's been a lot of talk as far as the coaches about what they can do and they can, make things better, and it doesn't happen. And I think the fan base is at the point now where it's boiling. They're wanting answers from the coaches. They're wanting better performances. And it's sad because you can't have these kind of performances at home, especially on a historic night where one of the legends of this organization, Art Monk, had his jersey retired. And, it was just a day of celebration for him. There were a lot of alumni here. You had the Super Bowl era uniforms being worn. And yet this team came out and laid an egg and had a very disheartening performance. So It's going to be a long week. We're going to have a lot we're going to have to break down at Commanders Park, as you know, Big Bear App Performance Center. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have to dissect and break down, and it's not going to get any easier because next week the Detroit Lions are going to come into town, and they're a team that some people can argue is better than Seattle, and we've seen what's happened with Washington when they've played superior opponents. The games haven't even been close or competitive. So we'll have a lot more that we're going to break down over the next few days from practice, and we'll see who's injured, because today there were a lot of injuries in this football game. Marshawn Lattimore left the game with an apparent knee injury. Obviously, we talked about Jayden Daniels. You know, you look at Trey Amos, you know, he injured himself and left the game. You know, you had Luke McCaffrey, the first play of the game. Luke McCaffrey on a kickoff has an apparent, you know, maybe collarbone or shoulder injury. So this team, walking wounded, they lose more players tonight, and it's not going to get any easier. So it was a very disheartening loss once again here at Northwest Stadium. Seattle Seahawks come from the great Northwest and just manhandle the Commanders 38-14. So here at Northwest Stadium for CBS 6 Sports, I'm NFL insider Lake Lewis Jr.